one of my jobs, as Kelly pointed out, it's in a statute. When the governor appointed me, it's to ensure consistent, effective, and coordinated law enforcement throughout all of California's environmental protection agencies. And it's a massive bureaucracy. Cal EPA is the cabinet secretary level, and there are 6 big bureaucracies underneath them, one being the Air Resources Board and the Water Board and the Integrated Waste Management Board, the Department of Toxic Substance Control, and the Department of Pesticide Regulation, and a outfit called OEHA, Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, if you have to know what that stands for, which are our scientists that study the impacts of our chemicals on humans. And so each, except that last one, all of them have an enforcement structure within them. And so there's a lot of information to assimilate, a lot of bureaucracy to make sure that we have consistent, effective, and coordinated law enforcement in California. And I suppose the governor appointed me because of my track record as a California prosecutor, working real cases for real communities. And so I get up to Sacramento, and then I'm learning all about the Air Resources Board and this AB 32, which was new to me, and supposed to bring my old experience to the fore in looking at all the different laws that are emerging, and this one stands out. And so the first observation that I made was, we're going to need a lot of help on this. And so that's the other reason I'm excited about being here, is because we are looking to do a lot better here in California and everywhere, and bringing the academia together with practitioners, because this is such a big problem. We're going to need all the resources we can muster. And so I'm excited about the work that's going on here at USD and many other law schools. Scott Anders' leadership is already going to be helping us as we go forward on public policy development and issues. In fact, Ellen Peter, the chief counsel at ARB, was working with some students from USD here earlier today. So it's a treat to be here. I thank you for the invite. I'm humbled by it, really. The second preliminary point, I hope to just really have a couple of hopefully substantive points that might benefit the discussions and not be redundant. But before I get to that one, my last initial point has to do with the dinner last night. We were at the dinner and talking about at table 3, talking about how does the future look. And we talked about all the science that's rolling in, and it's scary. It's scary, all the science. And are you pessimistic or optimistic? And Professor Carlson is laughing down here from UCLA because we went around and there was a fair amount of pessimism because of the science, to be honest. And I said I was an optimist. And I thought about that, and I gave some answer. I can't remember at the time, but I've been thinking about it ever since. And I'm optimistic for a lot of reasons, but a big one is growing up at the time that I grew up, and many of us grew up, in the middle of the Cold War. And in the 60s and 70s, in elementary school, we did duck and cover drills. I mean, we were getting ready for nuclear war. And then went on to college in the early 80s. We're in a recession, and you get to this point where you think, well, these problems are intractable. It's not going to work. And that's what the physical sciences are saying that. It looks grim. We talk about the permafrost we talked about last night. That is a very scary, scary thing. But social science has to also come to play. And look what happened in the Cold War. We were perseverant, and we worked hard. We had a lot of benefits of fighting that Cold War, and we succeeded. It was terrifying. You know, the idea of this military buildup and these nuclear missiles pointing at us. I remember that feeling, and the feeling that it's never going to go away, or else there's going to be this calamity. So that vibe back then, it is kind of reminiscent of the vibe now. And look, we persevered through that. And there's plenty of examples in social science, I think, that get at that point. I mean, in the improvements in medicine, they didn't know what to do, and then germ theory, and they started to figure it out. So I'm optimistic, and I think, speaking to the students that were at our table and all the students here, I think this is an exciting time to be alive and working, and the work that's going to come out of this room that you're going to do in the future, it's just a great opportunity because it's going to matter. So that was the second kind of lead-in point that I wanted to make. The other thing I wanted to say about the partnership, and I'm here to learn. I Googled my fellow panelists before I came. I thought, well, you know, check out who these folks are. And it's quite a distinguished panel, so it's an honor to be there. We've got, with John Minen, the World of Golf Law. He's got a book out on that, and Alice, some important work around environmental justice issues. So I'm already benefiting as a practitioner because of your work. And Leslie, I was especially fascinated by your case study in Brazil, where she's looking at prosecutions in Brazil and the deterrent effect of those. I look forward to reading your book on that so that I can better understand how that model can help us effectuate AB 32 and the rest of the important environmental work that we do. The two quickly substantive points that I'd like to add to the already excellent discussion that has gone on has to do with tools in the toolbox. I don't know who mentioned that phrase before, but I think it's a good one because if we look at, as Chairman Nichols pointed out earlier, this is a massive task that we have ahead of us. And so what will we need in order to make sure that there's, you know, consistent, effective, and coordinated enforcement and to get the job done? So we look at what we've done so far. What are the laws that we've had on the books, and what is the capacity that we utilize to get there? And so we've heard all the talk of the Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, other areas of law, RCRA, CERCLA, Endangered Species Act, all of these federal laws, and then we have our state counterparts. And compared to those important laws and the important work that has gone on for decades there, this, from what I can tell, is so much bigger. So look at the resources that have gone into that. Now there's a statewide association called ECOS, Environmental Council of the States, I believe. And they put together a study of enforcement resources in the United States and where are they. And their assessment is basically 80% of all enforcement that happens in the United States happens at the state and local level. Okay, now that's enforcement of those existing statutory schemes, 80% state and local. Okay, now we're going to do something a lot bigger, right? Okay, so it would be, you know, imperative that we at least utilize the resources that we have out there. Now, to bring that home here to California, the way the federal EPA is split up, split up into regions. So Region 9, where California sits with Arizona and Nevada and Hawaii and some of the Pacific territories, there are 850 people working in that area. Now, let's look at California enforcers in all those agencies that I talked about, that alphabet soup in California. We have, just in the state bureaucracies alone, in 4,500 employees. We have a decentralized law enforcement system of not just state, but state, regional, and local law enforcement partners. And there are thousands of local enforcers. We have 35 air districts in that media. We have 9 regional water quality control boards in that one. We have 55 law enforcement agencies that manage or that enforce on integrated waste. 58 ag commissioners that enforce our pesticide rules.